All right. Welcome. I think some of you are joining us who weren't at our first roundtable with the music uh, teachers. So, welcome to the roundtable. This part is really more for parents and kids. So, if you're um, wanting your kids to have more, then Penny and I are going to teach some art classes after this. So, right now is the art roundtable, and that will be uh, well, however long we take. And then Penny is going to teach a class. I think we put that one for, okay, I'm starting to lose my Eastern time. So it's
Three,
2 o'clock
3 o'clock
now,
Eastern.
3:15.
3 o'clock Eastern is the class for that I'm teaching.
Right. And I think I might have pushed it to 3:15 in case our talk goes a little long, but well,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, but we'll check and make sure which, and so Penny and I will be teaching classes that your kids can participate at 3 or 3:15 and 4 o'clock Eastern time. And now we're just going to talk a little bit about art and the value of art and homeschool, maybe some tips for how you can add it to your homeschool. And let's get started with Penny. Penny, where are
Yeah.
you from? And tell us a little bit about yourself and your background with art. I guess we'll get started with that.
Yeah. Well, hello. I am so excited to be here with you all today, and thank you for inviting me. Uh, um, I am art is my passion. I'm an advocate of art in education. I love, love, love teaching art. And my background is that I'm a home school mom of 20 years. Before that, I was an art teacher in the public schools. I've taught art in many, 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 many venues. I have taught in the public schools, I've taught in private schools, I've taught in homeschool co-ops, I have taught in homeschool enrichment classes. And now I teach homeschool art online as well. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, um, as well as a master's in education. And I just love sharing my passion of hands-on art connected with history and art history to homeschoolers, because I believe that it's important, and I believe it adds a huge amount of fun as well as a huge amount of enrichment to history and just your homeschool in general. I love bringing fun to Homeschoolers Day.
Great. So, how, like, so you said you've been teaching for how many years again? Over 20?
Well,
Or
here we're going to date
homeschooling for
Penny.
20. So way over that.
I have been teaching for 40 some years.
But you're
I
only
taught straight
29.
out of school, and I've been teaching ever since. So you are looking at a lady who has been teaching a lot of years.
Yeah. So what made you want to teach art?
Well, I think I think in general, I am a teacher at heart,
Okay.
and I love art. And you teach your passion if God gives you the venue and the chance. And art and hands-on art and art history are my passion, and connecting art with history. And I've just got to say, I never really enjoyed history that much until I started viewing history through the art. Um, I when I started looking at history through art history, all of a sudden that visual connection really helped me understand history. And I do the same thing with the Bible too. So when I was creating Take Time for Art, and I started creating Ancient Rome, I had the opportunity to see art surrounded by ancient Rome. I saw and of course I'm including all this while I'm writing Ancient Rome for Take Time for Art. So I'm looking at all the photographs of the architecture and the ruins, and I'm looking at art that's been created through the century about Roman mythology and the events of ancient Rome, and when Caesar gets stabbed and all of that, and then I read Acts in the Bible, and all of a sudden, all of these visual pictures are playing in my head. And just by having those visual images, Acts made so much more sense to me, because when Paul talks about being in Rome, or when he's, or, the whole, when he meets Jesus on the road and he gets blinded, I have I have these wonderful works of art in my head. The Caravaggio of Paul, with his hand out, with the horse right under his face. It's just wonderful. And I'm a visual person. I know a lot of people. I think Newsweek said that 60% of us are visual learners. And so when we're able to share these visual images with our children, we're meeting them in a way that simply reading material out doesn't. And I'm not, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that reading is not good. Reading is wonderful. And I am a huge fan of reading. But adding that visual to your lesson is huge. It helps meet your children in a way that just the verbal doesn't always help them. So educators call that movies in our head. And it's a great help in reading comprehension. In other words, there's some kids who that movie isn't going in their head that well. For instance, if you're reading, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie, and if a child has never seen a log cabin and they're describing the log cabin, they may not have that movie or those visual images going on in their head of what a log cabin looks like. But if you've shown them the pictures of the log cabin, or maybe you've done a hands-on project with Lincoln logs where you've built a log cabin together, that movie is going on in their head. And when you read Little House on the Prairie, they're bringing up those images from their brain. So I like to think for history, the more images that we have from history, the more movies we have going on in our head, and the more we can understand it and take it in and remember it. And then when you add hands-on to it, like we do at Take Time for Art, then not only do you bring up those images, but you make even more connections with, something like ancient Greece and Greek vase painting. It just seals the deal, and it really helps make those connections in the brain, and it helps your children remember what they're learning.
Right. So something else that you said made me think too, that art itself tells a story and is a means of communication. And so that's one of the benefits. So we've kind of jumped into the benefits here. I'll go back real quick though and say a little bit about myself and my experience with art too. So I don't have the art training that Penny has. She has the art degree. I've got the music degree, but I did teach art because I was in classical conversations, and in that community for the younger kids, one teacher teaches everything. And so I had to learn how to teach art. And I had thought at one point, oh, I'm not really a very good artist. I'm very creative. I can do beautiful, I like making beautiful things and creating things. But when it came to teaching drawing, I wasn't totally sure what to do until I had to do it. And so I learned how to break it down into steps for the kids. Just even, okay, draw a line from this point to this point, or a curved line, and breaking it down and making it so they would know how to do it, because nobody taught me to do that when I was a child that way. And so it just became like, well, draw, we'll draw a picture of a house. And so I'd have to come up with this house out of my head and think about it. And what I learned is that if somebody breaks it down into steps and teaches you the tricks of perspective a little bit there too, as well as if you have something to imitate. So imitating something, breaking it down into steps, that's what helped me to see I can learn to draw. And so that's part of my twist on how I teach it is I want kids to not just think, I can't do this, I can't do it as fast as the teacher's doing it, I can't do it as well as the teacher's doing it. So my twist is you can learn to draw, it's okay to make mistakes. And so that's kind of my background in it. But Penny's already shared all these benefits with us, so we'll keep going on with that too.
Yes,
I don't even have
and
to.
I apologize for jumping ahead.
Oh, that's
Just
totally fine.
I
That's just
am,
part of having a conversation. That's what. So
yeah,
yes. So one of the things too that we talked about with in the music roundtable and that I know Penny and I also share here is that God is a creator, and so we enjoy God by creating art ourselves and imitating our creator by being creative ourselves. And so art is that outlet for that. It's just part of what makes us human. Looking at art, making art, enjoying beautiful things, right? So
that's right. I tell my students, we talk about this quite a bit at Take Time for Art on my videos. We say we're created to be creators. We bear the image of the creator. He made us to be creators, just like himself, just like he's a creator. And I love telling that to children. Everybody is going to grow up to be a creator. Whether you may not be a visual artist, but you are going to create. You're going to build something. You're going to make something. You're going to write something. Everybody is going to create. And I believe, like, for instance, here's one of our ancient warriors helmets that we make for Greece in our Greece video. And I believe when I teach children how to make these, and these can be worn, and they're hard. Children beat their brothers over the heads with these.
but we don't recommend it.
We don't use a pool noodle, but they're great fun. And but when I teach you how to do this, you're building something. You're doing something with your hands. These are made to be worn. Like this one fits me, and
Wow.
it's something that I'm not just teaching you how to draw, which is very, very important. And I believe in hand-eye, and I believe in drawing, and I believe everybody needs to know how to draw to a certain extent. But I also believe in building, and I believe that the skills that you learn from the hand-eye and the building and the brain is going to transfer over when you got to build a semiconductor, or you have to do brain surgery, or whatever it is, or you need to take the vacuum cleaner apart and figure out what's caught in the hose, and whatever it is. But these are all skills, and these are all ways the creative process is going to transfer over into whatever creative life job and life skills that you need. That those art skills and that art process and that creative process is going to help you think and going to help you create.
Right.
Building and drawing is going to transfer to engineering, nursing. It's going to transfer to whatever.
Yeah. So there's kind of the two aspects then. There's appreciating art, and then there's the creating art. And both of those you can incorporate history and worldview. For instance, I am not a Picasso fan, but and one of his famous paintings is Guernica. I might not be pronouncing that right, but it's when I
Mhm.
understood the story behind why he created that art, I decided that the way he created it's like the cubist. It looks very strange, but it's about the fact that the Nazis had just bombed the Spanish town, Guernica,
Right.
and so he showed the destruction, and it's a very distorted way. And I was like, you know what? That art form actually matches what his message is there. And
Yeah.
so then there's a lot of other art that, if they don't have a Christian worldview, there is going to be rebellion expressed in the art, or chaos and lack of structure. Some of the, what's that guy, Jackson Pollock, with just all this drips and stuff. I think there was a lot of chaos going on for him. But then there's all the
He's known as
artists like
Jack the Dripper. He's
yeah.
known as Jack the Dripper.
Oh, that's a good joke. That's a good April Fool's one, right? Jack the Dripper. Um, then there's the artists of the Renaissance who were getting, well, they were starting to celebrate the way God created the human body, like Michelangelo, or Michelangelo, however you want to pronounce it. And um, so they might have gotten a little too humanistic, but the worldview, what's going on in the culture, is being reflected in the art, is the main point there. And so we can develop an understanding of the culture and observing and interpreting as we observe the art. And then you're also creating some of the art of the eras with your curriculum. So
It's
um,
really important as you're looking at art with your children to talk about what the artist is trying to tell the viewer. So, for instance, let's talk about let's go back to a Caravaggio, and I don't have it up. We didn't talk about this ahead of time. Well, let me think of one that's let me think of okay. Let's do the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So that's by Michelangelo, and it's an iconic piece of art, and it's huge. It covers the whole Sistine Chapel, right? And it talks about the story of creation, and it talks about Genesis, basically. He goes through Bible stories in Genesis. And Michelangelo was all about the human body, and he was all about showing the human body. So a lot of that is, I think, as a parent, I'm not so sure I'd want to show everything in the Sistine Chapel up close to my children. When we cover the Sistine Chapel in the Renaissance, which we released in 2021, I show that from far away because there are a lot of nudes in it. And I feel like a parent should have the choice of whether or not their child sees nude art or not. So we cover the Sistine Chapel, but we show a picture that is far away enough that you get a general idea of what that ceiling looks like. And we also show some very edited close-ups that don't show intimate body parts, so that you can get a sense of what Michelangelo is creating. But again, my opinion is we're teaching to children, and you can always go back and add to what I'm teaching you if you want to see the entire work of Michelangelo's David. But when I'm showing you Michelangelo's David, I'm not going to show you the frontal nudity of the David. I'm going to show it to you from the side, or from, I'll show you the head, so that you're familiar with that statue as a child and as a parent. I'm sure the parents already know it. And then if you as a parent want to go back and show them the whole statue, that's fine. It's an important statue to know, but it's an important work of art to know, and we talk about it, but we don't show the whole thing.
Right.
Again, I'm respecting, as an art teacher, I want to respect um, the every. I can't, as an art teacher, I'm not going to please everybody, but I'm going to teach your children and your family the way I would want my children taught as a homeschool mom. And I try very hard not to show your children nudity in art. And again, it's easy to find it out there. You can show them the whole statue if you think your children are ready to see that, or whenever
Right.
they are ready to see that.
Sure.
So that's the way we approach that at Take Time for Art.
Yeah. So, you were mentioning some things about brain development and how you think art helps with brain development.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me just, I've got my cheat sheet here. But one of the things that we all hear, we talk about critical thinking.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think that's one of the best benefits of art and hands-on activities in general are it helps children develop critical thinking skills, because part of critical thinking skills are making decisions, being able to make good choices, having the experiences behind you of knowing, okay, I am confident that I can make good choices based on the information that I have. And some of that is just trying things and having the experience of trying things. And that's what you're doing all the time in art. You're making choices. If I draw this line, what kind of results do I get? If I make this texture in a piece of art, what kind of results do I get? If I don't know. So here's one of our, this is one of our self-portraits. and if I take a selfie and blow it up and trace the lines and paint it really, I'm getting, you're getting reflections on
A
that, but
little bit,
paint it
yeah,
really
but
strange colors. What kind of you know, this is done on a piece of acetate. But what am I going to get if I change this background to something else? Like I can make this a different background. Then how is it going to change it? So a lot of that's building our brains and building that critical thinking. And you know, if I make a sculpture of a dog, and I change this or I change that, what's going to happen with that? And you can't make those connections through pencil and paper. You do it through hands-on and through building and through, I tell people all the time, this is connected to this. And it's it's a beautiful thing, right? It makes learning fun. And while you're having that fun, it makes it makes you smarter, right?
right. Well, and then we're such a visual culture now.
We are.
So there's all this symbolism in the graphics and marketing logos and things like that. And so as we discern and interpret art, then we hopefully can start to discern and interpret some of that, some of the marketing logos, but also concrete and abstract thought. So, like, some art is very realistic, and then you get into Impressionism, where it's not. It's still, you can still see the scene. You step back, you still see the scene, but you get up close and you realize, oh, there's, it's just like brush strokes and impressions of something. Or what's that one? Is it pointillism, where it's a lot of
Twinkleism.
dots?
Syrah.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you look really closely, you see all the little dots, and you move back, you
Right.
can see, oh, it's this cool picture, and you don't realize it's all these dots until you get close. But
Right.
then you see, so there's a little bit of abstract, well, of course, then there's abstract art, which is so it can teach the concrete and abstract, um, concepts as well for the brain. Uh, so think, yeah, lots of brain development going on and just being active, right? Being active and participating in life.
Oh, absolutely. And see, here's the other thing. If you've got a child who's having trouble paying attention or staying in their seat, or I mean, we all know that some kids are perfectly happy to sit on the couch and listen to you read a book. But many kids are not. Many kids need to have something in their hands. They
Mm.
need to be doing something while that book is being read to them. They cannot just sit still. That's, I would say, that's just plain normal. So, having that hands on activity actually helps kids pay attention. It will help children build that ability to sit. Not that everybody needs to sit all the time, but there's a certain amount of sitting required in life. It will give you the ability to sit. And when you are like, okay, so here's our bus project we make in ancient Rome. When you're doing this, you've got to sit and watch and pay attention to what's going on in the video and see, what is she doing? How can I do that? How can I make it different? What kind of choices can I make that's going to make the nose look bigger or funny, or what can I do to make this funny looking? That's one of the things I actually asked them to do, because in ancient Rome, when the wealthy or influential people were doing their busts, they did warts and all kind of busts.
Wow.
And to our eyes, they had some quite interesting hairdos. And to our eyes of, in 2020 something, they actually look very funny to us. And so we make funny looking busts. This one's more serious looking, but but we made clown busts. I mean, whatever. Uh, um, how can you make your bust look funny? It's a problem that you can solve. And when we get to solve fun problems, we're building our brains to solve more complex problems down the road. So yeah, that ties back into critical thinking, um, helping your kids stay engaged, helping your child remember things. When you teach a concept, for instance, if you're teaching a concept on the cell, you can read about a cell, that's all well and good. But if you show a picture of the cell, you're going to understand it a whole lot better than just reading about it. If
Right.
you build let's say you watch a video on a cell, then you'll get more information. You're going to be making more connections in your brain. But then if you build a model of the cell, you are going to remember those parts so much better than if you had just read about it from the beginning, right? So the hands-on, in my thinking at least, is critical to learning.
Right. Yeah, so I definitely hear that. I mean, you you're advocating for the visual learning, but the kinesthetic learning as well.
Right. That's right. It's not just one or the other. It's a package. I think everybody needs the package. You don't just need some kids are auditory learners, some kids are visual learners, some kids are kinesthetic learners, more one way than another way. But I believe everyone needs the whole package. Everybody needs to hear, see, and do. We all,
So, yeah. So would you say you think that art education is essential and not just an elective?
absolutely. And I think that it needs, and it's not, so it's not just in my, at least the way I do it, it's not just an elective, a sideline. it's part of your curriculum. We teach it from history. So we're doing, you can call them history unit studies, if you will. We do ancient Egypt and ancient Rome. And when we go to, let's say, ancient Rome, and we're telling the story of ancient Rome using huge amounts of art and telling that story with visuals, with video, with the visuals, the music, the voiceovers. And then we take a piece of art, like for instance, when we go to Pompeii and we look at Mount Vesuvius and pictures of Mount Vesuvius and look at the destruction, we look at the artifacts from Mount Vesuvius through photographs, and then we look at the Roman floors and the mosaics, and then we make a mosaic.
Oh, wow.
So that we can remember, right? Or again, the bus project from ancient Rome. After we talk about the Roman Republic, and we talk about Caesar and the rise to power and the Roman Empire, and we talk about how art played a role in that. And we show a famous statue of Caesar Augustus. And then we make our own bus project. Excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So you were talking about it being essential, and what I hear you also saying is you're integrating it in with the other subjects.
Exactly.
So
that's exactly what yes, that's exactly what
it is essential, because it's integrated. It's easy to integrate it, though, it sounds like.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's easy. I would say what I'm doing is what I wanted to do when I was homeschooling for 20 years. But I didn't have time to do it. I didn't have time to pull all of the art history together and pull all of the history and marry it all together in a video and then come up with the projects. That's what I wanted. Yeah. But as a homeschool mom, I had a few other things to do. So that's what I wanted to teach my own children. And it's the way I wanted them to learn history and art together. Because when you look at a piece of art, it's important to know what's behind it. Like you said, what's the story behind that piece of art? What's the history behind it? That's what really, to me at least, helps make that piece of art meaningful, and it helps you remember it. A piece of art can be beautiful, but for instance, this past week was Vincent van Gogh's birthday, and 3 pieces of art that we posted on our Facebook page was from when Vincent van Gogh went into he went in for treatment after he cut his ear off, and he went into an insane asylum. While he was in the insane asylum, he painted some of the most beautiful works of art. He painted a self-portrait with, the bandaged ear, but he painted one of my favorite works of art, which is the irises. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They're purple irises with one white iris in that beautiful work. And I've always thought that's so like Vincent van Gogh. And when I realized that came from when he was in the insane asylum, I wonder, those are the purple iris. Everybody, I wonder if he's thinking, yeah, everybody's a purple iris but me, I'm the white iris. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that painting is so beautiful, but when you realize that there's a story behind that painting, that's what he saw out of his window or saw in the garden from the insane asylum, it makes it very, not only it becomes more than beauty, it becomes poignant, and it has a story behind it, and you remember that, and the artwork becomes more meaningful.
Right. Now, do you think people need to like every kind of art?
No, I don't. Do you?
No. So,
when
I
you
mean, the
when you
yeah,
mentioned Pablo Picasso, I like some of his stuff. He has a lifestyle that I don't think I am not in agreement with. He
right.
was I believe he was a womanizer,
Yep.
and so knowing who that artist is also skews how we perceive the art, right?
Sure.
So I like Guernica. He was painting an incredibly interesting and painting of destruction by the Nazis, and it's very powerful. But some of his paintings of nudes of women are kind of deconstructing women.
Mm,
And I look at those and I know at least a little bit about his lifestyle, and I'm
right.
thinking, yeah, that's kind of what you did to women.
Exactly.
You kind of
Yeah.
used them up and threw them away.
Yep.
And it, you know, so knowing a little bit about the artist helps us understand a little bit more about what they're putting into their painting. On the other hand, um, there are people like uh, Klimt, Klimt,
Right.
who did the beautiful paintings of the woman, woman in gold, right? Adelaide, oh, I can't remember her, but she's the Austrian woman that he painted. Um, and he had some interesting he had an interesting lifestyle and interesting lifestyle and but he did gorgeous stuff if you filter it out from some of his other works. You don't want to show your children all of Klimt's works. That it would not be appropriate. But there are those iconic works, um, like and I'm saying this wrong, and I don't know why it's not coming right out right, but Woman in Gold, or I think that's
Actually,
right,
I
but
don't
it
know
doesn't
this one at
sound
all,
right
but
in my head. But you know
yeah.
which picture I'm talking about. Um, that's they need to know that painting. It's incredibly important. Well, you know, I think it is. But everybody loves that painting. It's an and court cases were fought over that painting because that was one of the ones that the Nazis stole from
Oh,
a Jewish family. It's an incredible story. So those are great stories to tell your children when you're studying World War II. The Nazis were taking these paintings.
right.
There was another one by the same family of the same woman he painted, and they stole that one too. There's
Mm,
a great film out about that you can watch on. I think you can watch it for free on IMDb TV.
oh, okay.
It's well worth your time watching it. But yeah, you have to filter out stuff for your kids when just like literature, just like movies, when you hit the visual arts, there's got to be a filter. And I like to think at least that I've done that for you when we're showing you stuff with Take Time for Art. I vetted the art for you. And I think we do a good job of that. At least in all these years I've been doing it, I haven't gotten any complaints from parents, and we serve the homeschool community. So
Yeah.
yeah, we try hard to vet what we're showing your children and
Yeah.
because we know that we're serving parents as well. It's kind of like Sesame Street. We know that the parents are watching too. So we want to not only entertain our children that we serve, we also don't want to put our parents to sleep either. So
Yeah. And what I say about art and music both is no, you don't have to appreciate everything, but if you take the time to study it, something that you might not like at first, if you spend some time with it, learning the history, just like Guernica. Okay, I'm never going to hang that one on my wall, but at least I can appreciate it as an
That's
artwork
right.
and its
That's
historical
right.
value. And the same with music, you know, you repeat it over and over and becomes an old friend, and you appreciate what's gone into it. And so then you can, the more we study and understand art, the more we're going to be able to appreciate it. And
That's right. And it's important because, you know, what do people, when people, let's say you or your children become super wealthy, what are you going to spend your money on? Or what do you want? What do people, when they're super wealthy, what do they spend their money on? They spend their money on art. And when they do that, they want to make, I want to, I'm hoping that if you're going to spend your wealth on art, I want you to make good choices. And even if you're not wealthy, I want you to be able to go to museums, and I want you to be able to know a little bit about what you're seeing. It's important. It's important for us as people. We need to know what has been created before us. We
yeah,
need to know what's it, because it's a statement about that people group. What was going on in the Renaissance? Well, people were creating all of this art. Why? Well, because they were discovering, they were rediscovering the classical statues. They started really studying them. They found out about one point perspective that you talked about. They figured out that they could, how to make things look realistic. They found out how to bring depth to a picture. They found out, they studied those classical statues, and people like Michelangelo learned how to create them in a new way, you know.
well, and artists, most artists study artists before them
That's
and
right.
imitate their works to become better at what
Exactly.
they do. Yeah,
Yes, that's right. That's how you learn, is by imitation.
right.
And again, it's one of the reasons that we take a work of art, and I don't even have it here, but one of, on our website you can see me holding up the Egyptian mummy mask.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're looking at King Tut's mummy mask, and then we create a mummy mask. We're looking at art to make art.
Mhm.
So I like to say we make real art based on real art.
Yeah.
And so here's an example. When we look at Byzantine art, we look at the art of um, the Byzantine art in Constantinople at the, oh gosh, it went out of my
Is it
head.
Hagia Sophia?
Yeah, the Hagia. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
It's amazing.
So
I
the,
remember.
yeah, very good. I'm so impressed you can remember that. But we're looking at all of the mosaics, and they're beautiful, and they're backed in gold leaf, and they sparkle. And we go to at the same period. Um, we go to Italy, to the cathedrals in Ravenna, Italy, and we look at the mosaics there, and they sparkle, and they're backed with gold leaf, glass backed with gold leaf. And so we make a Byzantine mosaic. This is not gold leaf backed, but it is made with gold gravel, and we do use some kind of sparkly shells in that, but we make our version, at least, that's acceptable, that's accessible to a child, of a Byzantine mosaic. So that's, anyway, that's how we conquer that problem.
Right. Well, um, we've talked a lot about the benefits of art then. There's a lot. And
There are.
you shared a story with me the other day, though. I was asking you a question about a story of a student whose life's been changed by being involved in art. And so you were telling me about your son. So I want you to share about your son's involvement. It's art and music and integrating a lot of things. So
That's right. So I told y'all I'm a homeschool mom. I homeschooled for 20 years, and my son is both a musician and he was homeschooled, and but he's also a very hands-on guy, just by nature. But my husband is also a woodworker, and because we homeschooled, and because I don't know, we're makers by nature. We one Christmas, my son was taking guitar lessons, and he had expensive taste in guitars. I'll say that, which our budget did not meet. And we gave him a book on how to make an electric guitar. That was part of his Christmas gift. And that boy dived into that book. He was 11, I think, and maybe 12. And so that year, between his dad had been teaching him how to do woodworking. He had already learned how to do some carving, and he was doing a little bit of lathe work, even woodworking. And again, this is the beauty of homeschooling. You can do this kind of thing. You can allow your child, you can do, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of school in the morning, or less than that, really. And then you got the rest of the day. What are you going to do? Well, you can go down in the shop and make stuff. And that's what he did. And he taught himself how to build a guitar. His dad helped him with some of the woodworking. His dad didn't really help him that much. And then his dad had no idea how to do the electronics, but our son taught himself how to do the electronics, excuse me. And he built his first electric guitar. And it was heavy. It really, but it played, and he entered it in the state fair, and he won a blue ribbon. And he was so proud. And that was his first one. And he built more and more. And now he's an electrical engineer now, but he has a side business building electric guitars. And you can go on Facebook and look at May's Guitars on Facebook, and you can see some of the guitars that he's made. I'm very proud of them. They're very beautiful. There are a lot of really nice woodworking in his guitars. But it's Mayes Guitars. And anyway, he basically taught himself how to do that. And if he had been in a situation where he was at school all day, he might have learned how to build a guitar. I don't know, but I think he wouldn't have been as far down the road as he is now in his skill level, simply because he would not have had the time to devote to it. So that's just one example of why I think homeschooling is great for our children. They just have time. They have time to sit on a couch and read a book. They have time to explore their God-given, created to be creators talents.
right.
And
So I mean, he didn't become an artist. He didn't become a musician.
so,
He became an electrical engineer, but having art and music in his life is a
right,
whole picture. He makes him more well-rounded whole person. So
right.
yeah,
That's right. And he's a really good guitar player. He sings and helps lead worship at our church. And all the guitars that he's made for himself, he makes guitars for other people as well. but the guitars he plays, he's made, and
Yeah.
they're good. He makes acoustic and electric,
Right.
and it's, I'm obviously the very proud mama, but um, I will say I'm very thankful and give God glory just to have had the opportunity to homeschool my children, because I feel like it really allowed them and allowed me to mentor them and allowed them to discover what they're good at. And that, if you can give your child that gift, helping them understand the talents and the abilities that God has created within them, I think that that is an incredible gift to give your
Yeah.
child.
And they don't have to be good at art or good
Mhm.
at music, but they can still learn to appreciate it. They can still participate in it, and it's gonna participate in it, and it's still gonna enrich their lives.
That's
So
right. That's right. And my son, my son doesn't like museums. He hated it when when I would drag him to the museums, simply because it was, oh, that's mom's thing. But he can talk about art, and he appreciates it now, even
I'll
though even though he knows, uh, it's not, art history is not his thing, but he's got good visual acumen. And I like to think that I put some of that into him
yeah.
and showing him all that art down through the years.
Yeah, and I think kids do go through different stages of liking some things and then not liking them. My kids are teenagers. They used to love all kinds of music and art, and now it's kind of like, that's not really very cool, mom. But I really
Right.
think it's going to come back around where they appreciate all the things that they have been exposed to later on, right? So,
That's right. That's right. And I will say, one of having a son, when I'm creating stuff for Take Time for Art, I really do try hard to make it boy friendly. For instance, let me show you this.
oh yeah, your helmets and masks and stuff definitely look boy friendly.
Yeah, so this is, when we do Middle Ages, we make shields and we make them so you can play with them. So this is, well, this has got a hanger on it. Let me show you another one. Oh, so here's one. So it's got a hanger. It's got these, uh, the ability to play with the shield. I think that's really important. If you're going to make a shield, particularly if you're a boy, you need to be able to play with this with your play sword. It's really important.
Yeah.
I have a mom who has 5 boys that did the Middle Ages with her son. She said they played with them. She said these get played with every single day and they're holding up. And that thrills my heart. I think that, you know, art is not a girl thing. Art is both a guy and a girl thing,
Sure.
and we try really hard to make it exciting for both, um, our male as well as our female students.
Right.
We need to let them see. I mean, war is a big part of art. It's a big part of history, and those shields are a big part of the Middle Ages. So
Yeah.
we make them.
So I was going to see if you have some tips that we can. I mean, obviously you have your program, so you're going to talk about your program. We'll see. Maybe you talk more about your program when you do your demonstration. Let's see about the time on that. But let's see if we have some tips that we can give parents for adding art. Now, obviously, we have programs that we can
Mhm.
help them with the art. And like you said, you
Right.
just didn't have time to incorporate the art as well as you do now, and you can give that to parents. But if you're a parent who wants to kind of do it on your own, what are some of the tips you would give to parents to help them to add the art?
Right. Well, I would say just do what's comfortable for you. And if you just had a baby and life is, um, a little chaotic right now and you need more sleep, then when you're doing your read alouds, just make sure you have materials in the house, like crayons and markers and pencil and paper. And when you're doing your read alouds, just allow your children to draw. Have modeling clay, and have a safe place in your home to do those things. A table or a table coverings are more important in my mind than tables, because if you have a good table covering, you can use almost any table in your house. A thick vinyl table covering is a wonderful thing, and you can do all manner of projects on that table and not disturb the surface underneath. So if you're working on your kitchen table and you're doing something really messy, put a flattened cardboard box under that project. And then you can scoop that whole thing up and transfer it somewhere else, and it can dry, and you get your kitchen table back for supper that night. And that's kind of important, don't you think?
Yeah.
So make sure that you can cover your stuff and transfer your stuff and have safe places to do art. And then it becomes a little bit easier to incorporate the mess. Because let's face it, the really fun stuff like this is messy, right? But it's really fun to do. So as long as you have a safe place in your house to make the mess, you're not going to be as afraid of the mess, and you're going to be more inclined to take that dive into and take chances with your children in art. So that's the first step. Have a safe place and buy a few materials.
Right. So just letting them explore things too. I mean, start with
Right,
coloring, and then, like I said, with drawing, breaking it down into simple steps, so
right,
they can learn to draw and imitate, having things they can imitate.
right.
I know.
And I would say too, don't be afraid to draw from photographs. If photographs are great, that's that's the way most artists work. Most artists now work from photographs, and photographs are wonderful. And if you print a photograph that you or your child likes on the computer, you can take a pen or a marker and you can trace the contour lines. Contour lines are basically outlines, or the surface lines of something. You can trace those with a pen and you can see them. And you can do something like a simple exercise in saying, okay, here's what we printed out from the computer. Here's our computer copy paper. You draw the lines and then see if you can do it again on the plain copy paper. That's even breaking those steps down even more. What shape did you draw? Okay, let's draw it over here. You can even do a grid on that copy paper and do a grid on the picture that you printed out. And you can show them, your children, how they can transfer with those with that grid pattern. That's always a good exercise in learning to draw. And then you can, because when you go out and try to draw a tree, our brains think, oh, tree, it's huge. But if you try a picture first and you see the lines and you break it down that helps you break it down in your head. So then when you go out and draw a tree, you have that memory. Oh, I drew it like this before and I broke it down. How does this transfer into that tree that I'm seeing? So that will help.
Yeah. Well,
How are we
so
doing on
tell us
time?
about, yeah, no, we're fine because you're gonna, if you want to give a brief overview now, or you can do it during your.
I think I've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah, you really have.
Would it be helpful to take questions about
Yeah,
now?
yeah. I'll talk about my program when I do my demonstration, and you,
Okay,
if you want to say more about it when you do your demonstration.
sure.
So
We
let's
can
just
do
see
that.
if there's any questions. If you've had a chance to listen and you have questions for Penny or me about adding art to homeschool or the value of it.
All right. Would y'all like to see a few of our projects that take time for art? I've already shown you some. Would you like to see any others? Let me just show you a few. We do because of the printing press, when the printing press comes out in the Renaissance, we do two printing projects actually. This is one of them. In ancient Rome, when we talk about how when Rome conquers Egypt and the Egyptian mummy mask changed from mummy masks like King Tut to something called Fayum portraits and Fayum mask, and we learned how to draw human portraits. We also do something called, with all of our projects, we do simple versions and more complicated versions of our projects. This is our simple 1-point perspective project that we do in the Renaissance. We do a lot of watercolors. This is our, when we do, let me show you this. This is important. This is something you can get for free on our website when you sign up for our newsletter. This is our color wheel, and we do this before every time we paint. We do a color wheel. You don't have to do it with us every time if you're revisiting our units, but it's always there because I think that this is a really, really important art concept. Everyone needs to know how to mix colors. And it's one of those things that goes along with you in many, many aspects of life. So color wheel, and that's a free lesson on our website. Few other projects we do in the Middle Ages. We do an illuminated, we talk about the illuminated manuscripts. We show a lot of them as we go through the history of the Middle Ages. So this is one of our illuminated manuscripts. This is a more simple version. Here's a more complicated version. We talk about a lot of the illustrations that from the illuminated manuscripts and how the monks did a lot of illustrations. A more simple version. We talk about when we are in the Middle Ages, we talk about rose windows and the Gothic architecture. And this is one of our Gothic, this is a project from when we talk about Gothic architecture and rose windows. Here's another one. But a simple version of that project is just making just the rose window itself. And I've got another one that fell on the floor. Here's a simple here's a drawing that we do when we are in ancient Greece. We go to the Greek Isles and we visit, we talk about the Greek Isles and the myth of King Minos. And we look at the frescoes on some of the Greek islands and we draw. This is from one of the frescoes. We draw one of the Greek frescoes. Also in ancient Greece, we talk about the Mycenaeans and they did metal tooling. And when we talk about the history of the Mycenaeans, we do metal tooling. And that is actually, we're going to do something a little bit similar to this. We're not using this metal foil. This is all included in the art packs. We sell the art materials because I was a homeschool mom and I know that as homeschool moms, you are very, very busy. And I know that if you don't have the materials at hand, all those great intentions of doing the art are just going to get shifted aside in the busyness of life. So we sell art materials packs because I don't want you to be in the position of not doing art because the materials are not at hand. So that's why we go to the trouble of putting those art materials packs together, because I get it. So yeah,
Yeah,
William the
that's great.
Hippo. Yep. Yeah.
So, do you need a break at all before you
No,
start, or are you just
if you can
right
just
into it?
give me a second to clear my workspace, because I've got all this art around. So if I can just clear my workspace, give me 2 minutes to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
Why
I'm
don't you
gonna
mute yourself for a second and while you're
yeah,
doing
I'm gonna
that, and then
stop the video so you don't have to watch me.
okay, great.